You wake suddenly from deep sleep. The air burns your lungs. Your eyelashes have frozen together. The moisture in your nostrils crystallizes with each breath. Outside, the temperature has plummeted to -96 degrees Fahrenheit. That's cold enough to freeze mercury solid. Cold enough that exposed skin freezes in less than a minute. Cold enough that most modern heating systems would fail. And yet, right now, throughout the Republic of Sakha in Siberia, thousands of indigenous Yakut people are sleeping soundly, with no furnaces, no electric heaters, and sometimes without even a single blanket. If this kind of survival knowledge interests you, subscribe. Let's keep going. What I've just described isn't some extraordinary emergency scenario. This is normal life during winter in Yakutia, home to Oymyakon, the coldest permanently inhabited place on Earth. But here's what makes this truly remarkable. The Yakut people don't merely survive these conditions, they've mastered them, using techniques developed over thousands of years that defy our modern understanding of human endurance. Their approach doesn't just challenge our assumptions about physical resilience. It inverts everything we believe about comfort, insulation, and the relationship between humans and extreme environments. The Western world has developed a single approach to cold: separation and isolation. We build airtight homes, install powerful heating systems, wrap ourselves in synthetic materials, and essentially hide from the cold. The Yakuts, they've learned to harmonize with it. What appears to be primitive simplicity to outside observers is actually an intricate system of adaptations, physiological, architectural, and cultural, that allows them to thrive in conditions that would kill most humans within hours. This inversion of approach matters now more than ever. As energy costs rise, climate patterns destabilize, and the fragility of our modern systems becomes increasingly apparent. The Yakut methods represent not just cultural curiosities, but potentially critical knowledge for human adaptation in an uncertain future. Let's begin with the most fundamental element of Yakut cold adaptation: the physiology that makes it possible. The Yakut people belong to the Turkic peoples who migrated north from Central Asia around the 13th century. Over generations, they've developed specific biological adaptations to extreme cold. Their average basal metabolic rate runs approximately 50% higher than people from temperate climates, generating substantially more internal heat. This isn't just a slight difference. It's a profound metabolic adaptation that allows them to produce heat continuously throughout the night. Studies published in the American Journal of Human Biology found that the Yakut circulation system prioritizes keeping the body's core warm, with peripheral circulation naturally reducing during cold exposure. Their blood vessels constrict less dramatically in the extremities than those of people from warmer regions, allowing them to maintain functional dexterity at temperatures that would cause immediate frostbite in others. Even more fascinating, research has identified specific genetic adaptations in fat metabolism and mitochondrial function that enhance cold resistance. But these biological adaptations aren't sufficient on their own. The Yakut understanding of nutrition plays a crucial role in their cold resilience. Their traditional diet provides the exact macronutrient profile needed for sustained heat production in extreme cold. During winter, they consume between 5,000 and 6,000 calories daily, with up to 70% coming from animal fats. These aren't just any fats. They prioritize sources rich in omega-3 fatty acids, which maintain cell membrane fluidity at low temperatures. Horse meat and fat are dietary staples, providing proteins that are particularly rich in the amino acids needed for thermogenesis, the body's heat-producing mechanisms. The Yakut understanding of nutritional timing is equally sophisticated. Their largest meals come in the evening, providing a sustained release of energy throughout the night when temperatures reach their lowest. This approach ensures a continuous internal furnace that burns steadily through the darkest, coldest hours. The timing of their nutrition intake aligns perfectly with circadian biology. The body's natural thermogenic processes peak during the night, and by providing the right nutrients at the right time, the Yakut people essentially supercharge this natural cycle. This isn't primitive survival. It's an advanced understanding of human metabolism that modern nutritional science has only recently begun to appreciate. What's particularly noteworthy is the absence of stimulants in the traditional Yakut diet. While many cold weather cultures rely heavily on caffeine or other stimulants to boost metabolism, The Yakut approach focuses entirely on nutrient timing and quality. This creates a more sustainable heat production that doesn't crash or fluctuate unpredictably during the critical sleeping hours. Moving beyond physiology and nutrition, we must examine the Yakut architectural approach, which represents perhaps the most perfect inversion of Western cold weather design principles. The traditional Yakut dwelling, called a balagan, appears simple, a timber structure partially buried in the ground, with walls stuffed with hay and horse manure. But this apparent simplicity masks an architectural sophistication that modern buildings can't match in these environments. Unlike Western construction, which prioritizes airtight ceiling, the balagan is semi-permeable. It breathes. This seems counterintuitive until you understand the problem of condensation in extreme cold. In airtight modern homes, the moisture from human breath and activities collects on surfaces, creating dampness that actually accelerates heat loss. The balagan's breathing walls regulate humidity perfectly, preventing this moisture buildup while still retaining heat. The geometric design is equally intentional. The sloped walls minimize the interior volume that needs to be heated while maximizing structural integrity against snow load. The center of the dwelling features a small hearth, not for continuous heating but for cooking and initial warming. Once cooking is complete, the fire is allowed to die completely before sleep. No active heat source remains. Instead, the architectural design captures and stores body heat. The slight earth berm around the base, the specific timber selection, the orientation toward the prevailing winds, every element works together to create a microclimate that hovers just above freezing, using only the metabolic heat of its occupants as fuel. Modern thermal imaging studies of traditional balagans show remarkably efficient heat distribution, with virtually no cold spots or thermal bridging, problems that plague even advanced modern construction. The sleeping platform, elevated above floor level, takes advantage of the natural stratification of warm air. While Western beds sit on or near the floor, the coldest air layer, the Yakut sleeping area occupies the warmest zone in the dwelling. The platform material itself, usually birch, has natural insulative properties and doesn't conduct body heat away like many modern mattress materials. What's most remarkable about this architectural approach is its resilience. When modern heating systems fail in the Siberian winter, a potentially fatal emergency, the balagan remains functional. It doesn't rely on external energy inputs, complex mechanical systems, or fossil fuels. It functions entirely on the principles of physics, material science, and human biology, integrated into a single harmonious system. The Yakut relationship with clothing and bedding represents another profound inversion of Western approaches, where we add layers for warmth. The traditional Yakut sleeping method often involves partial nakedness. This isn't recklessness. It's based on a sophisticated understanding of the body's thermal regulation mechanisms. Yakut sleepers often expose their upper bodies while keeping their lower extremities well insulated. This creates a temperature gradient that helps maintain core circulation. By exposing the torso, the body's primary heat-generating region, they prevent overheating and sweating, which would be disastrous in a cold environment. The exposed skin creates a negative feedback loop with the cold air, regulating the internal furnace of metabolism to produce exactly the right amount of heat. Their traditional fur garments used during sleep are worn differently than Western clothing. Rather than creating tight seals at wrists and ankles, Yakut sleep garments allow for intentional air circulation channels. These channels prevent the accumulation of body moisture while still trapping sufficient warm air to maintain comfort. The garments are never tight or constricting. Blood circulation remains unrestricted, ensuring continued warmth distribution. The selection of materials shows equal sophistication. Traditional Yakut sleep garments combine multiple animal hides, typically reindeer for the outer layer and fox or wolverine for insulative components. These aren't chosen arbitrarily. Reindeer fur has hollow hair shafts that provide superior insulation per weight compared to almost any modern synthetic. The microscopic structure of fox fur contains natural water-repellent properties while still allowing vapor transmission. Even more remarkable is the absence of head coverings during sleep. While Western conventional wisdom emphasizes keeping the head warm, Yakut sleepers often leave their heads completely uncovered. This serves two critical functions. It prevents overheating of the brain, one of the body's most temperature-sensitive organs, and it allows precise thermoregulation through the scalp's rich blood vessel network, effectively functioning as the body's radiator. The Yakut approach to sleep itself differs fundamentally from Western patterns. Rather than the consolidated 8-hour sleep we consider normal, traditional Yakut winter sleep follows a biphasic pattern: 2 distinct sleep periods separated by a brief period of wakefulness in the deepest part of the night. During this midnight waking, Yakut sleepers perform a specific series of movements, not vigorous enough to cause sweating, but sufficient to regenerate metabolic heat. They may consume small amounts of nutrient-dense foods, typically preserved meats or fats, providing a fresh infusion of calories to fuel the body's internal furnace through the second sleep phase. This practice aligns perfectly with historical evidence suggesting biphasic sleep was the natural human pattern before artificial lighting altered our circadian rhythms. The timing of this midnight waking isn't arbitrary. It coincides with the body's natural dip in core temperature, providing metabolic reinforcement exactly when it's most needed. The brief activity session raises body temperature just enough to ensure safe passage through the night's coldest hours. This biphasic approach also creates psychological benefits, breaking the night into manageable segments and preventing the anxiety that often accompanies long winter darkness. Beyond these physical adaptations lies something even more fundamental: the Yakut philosophical approach to cold. Where Western culture views cold as an adversary to be conquered, the Yakut worldview sees it as a teacher and purifier. Their language contains over 40 distinct words for different types of snow and ice, reflecting not just linguistic diversity, but a fundamentally different relationship with winter. In the Yakut cosmology, extreme cold isn't a punishment, but a profound teacher of discipline and clarity. The precision required to survive at -96 degrees leaves no room for carelessness or distraction. This mental discipline becomes integrated into personality, creating the characteristic Yakut traits of careful observation, resourcefulness, and presence of mind. Their traditional stories personify winter not as a demon or enemy, but as a strict elder, demanding but ultimately beneficial. Children are taught from their earliest years to respect rather than fear the cold. This psychological framing transforms their physiological responses, reducing the panic reaction that accelerates heat loss and poor decision-making in cold environments. The practical manifestation of this philosophy appears in the Yakut practice of cold exposure training. From early childhood, individuals gradually build cold tolerance through progressively longer exposures. By adolescence, many can comfortably complete outdoor tasks barehanded at temperatures that would cause immediate frostbite in untrained individuals. This isn't mere toughness. It's a systematic desensitization that actually changes the body's physiological response to cold. What's particularly noteworthy is how this philosophical approach creates resilience beyond mere physical survival. Studies of mental health in circumpolar peoples show the Yakut have remarkably low rates of seasonal affective disorder despite the extreme winter darkness. Their cultural framing of winter as a time of storytelling, skills development, and community cohesion transforms what could be depressing isolation into a season of meaning and connection. This leads us to perhaps the most overlooked element of Yakut cold adaptation: the social technologies that make survival possible. The Western image of the lone frontiersman battling the elements has no place in Yakut reality. Their winter survival depends entirely on sophisticated social coordination and community heat management. The traditional Yakut winter settlement is arranged to maximize shared windbreaks and minimize collective heat loss. Dwellings are positioned to create protected courtyards and channels that direct the harshest winds away from common areas. The community sleeping arrangements follow equally strategic patterns, with elders and children positioned in the dwelling's warmest zones, and the physically strongest members taking the peripheral positions where their superior heat production can benefit others. Knowledge transfer follows a specific intergenerational pattern. Elders don't simply dictate survival techniques. They create carefully structured learning experiences that allow young people to internalize the embodied knowledge of cold adaptation. This isn't book learning, but somatic education, teaching the body itself to respond appropriately to extreme cold through graduated exposure and guided practice. The Yakut understanding of social timing is equally sophisticated. Community activities are scheduled to coincide with metabolic peaks, ensuring that periods of greatest cold exposure occur when the collective heat production is highest. Work rhythms follow precise patterns that prevent both overheating and hypothermia, with tasks sequenced to maintain optimal metabolic output throughout the day. Even conversation follows thermal principles. The traditional Yakuts storytelling sessions that occupy winter evenings aren't merely entertainment. They're strategically timed to coincide with the evening metabolic peak, when the additional oxygen consumption of extended speech actually contributes to collective warming. The content of these stories frequently reinforces cold adaptive behaviors through cultural narratives, essentially programming appropriate responses into the community's collective memory. Perhaps most remarkably, the Yakut have developed specific social protocols for identifying and addressing the early signs of cold-related impairment in community members. Long before clinical hypothermia sets in, subtle changes in speech patterns, movement quality, or cognitive function alert others to intervene. His social vigilance creates a safety net that modern technology cannot replicate. The contrast with modern approaches becomes even starker when we examine how these traditional methods interact with contemporary technologies. When Soviet authorities introduced centralized heating to Yakut communities in the mid-20th century, they encountered an unexpected problem: widespread respiratory illness and sleep disruption. The modern systems, while technically providing comfortable temperatures, disrupted the delicate balance of humidity, air exchange, and thermal gradients that the traditional systems had perfected. Even today, many Yakut families maintain traditional sleeping quarters, even when they have access to modern heating, recognizing that the older approaches actually provide superior comfort and health outcomes during the deepest winter. This isn't rejection of modernity, but recognition of a sophisticated system optimized over millennia for their specific environment. The Yakut adaptation to extreme cold offers profound lessons about human capability and resilience. It reveals that much of what we consider to be the limits of human endurance are actually cultural constructs rather than biological realities. The Yakut capacity to sleep comfortably at temperatures that would kill most people within hours isn't the result of superhuman genetics. It's the outcome of a holistic system that harmonizes physiology, architecture, behavior, and worldview into a single integrated approach. The true hidden lesson here goes beyond mere survival techniques. It challenges our fundamental relationship with adversity itself. Modern society increasingly treats discomfort as a problem to be eliminated rather than a teacher to be respected. We engineer our environments to shield us from all friction, creating what behavioral scientists call comfort traps. Environments so insulated from natural stressors that they actually weaken our adaptive capacities. The Yakut approach suggests a different possibility: that direct engagement with environmental challenges, undertaken with appropriate knowledge and preparation, doesn't diminish human flourishing but enriches it. Their winter adaptation has produced not just survival, but a sophisticated culture with rich artistic traditions, complex social structures, and philosophical depth. This inversion of perspective, seeing environmental challenges as teachers rather than enemies, may be the most valuable wisdom the Yakut people offer to our warming world. As climate destabilization creates new environmental stresses, the adaptive capacity demonstrated by cultures like the Yakut becomes increasingly relevant. Their methods show that human thriving doesn't require domination of nature, but can emerge from respectful alignment with natural forces, even at their most extreme. The next time you adjust your thermostat or add another blanket against a modest chill, remember the Yakut sleepers and the radically different relationship with cold they represent. Their mastery of extreme environments without modern technology isn't primitive survival but sophisticated adaptation, a different form of advancement that prioritizes harmony over control, resilience over comfort, and wisdom over mere technical capacity. If this exploration of human adaptation has shifted your perspective, consider sharing it with someone whose worldview might also be expanded by it. The true measure of valuable knowledge isn't just what it teaches us about the external world, but how it transforms our understanding of human potential itself. The Yakut sleep at 96 below zero not despite the cold, but in relationship with it, a relationship we have forgotten is possible.